Zeena didn't remember falling asleep. She remembered warm pie. She remembered Moose snoring like a baby bear. She remembered Akila whispering stories about glow toads and leaf ninjas. And she remembered her heart slowing, her fear melting, and the forest, so big and scary before, starting to feel just a little bit like home. But by the time she stirred awake, she was no longer on the forest floor or nestled between two wild forest kids. She was tucked into her own bed. The quilt smelled like laundry soap and lemon balm. Her gable window let in the soft pink of morning, and downstairs, someone was frying eggs. For a second, she blinked. Had she dreamed it all? But then she sat up and winced. Her leg was sore. Her elbow was wrapped in gauze. There was a pine needle in her hair. And on the windowsill, tucked between the dusty flower pots, was a tiny pine cone tied with a strip of red cloth. Proof. Downstairs, Grandma stood at the stove, spatula in hand, apron dusted with flour, and a look that said, "I'm glad you're alive, but we're gonna talk." Next to her sat Ben and June, mugs of coffee steaming like mini volcanoes in front of them. "Morning, little wanderer," Ben said, giving her a wink. June smiled softly. "You gave us all a bit of a scare." Zeena swallowed hard. "Grandma, Her grandmother held up a hand. Not angry, just tired. Her eyes were watery, but her back was still as straight as a fence post. "You don't need to say it, Zeena," she said quietly. "They already told me everything." Zeena braced herself, but Grandma didn't yell. She didn't even sigh. She just stepped forward, cupped Zeena's cheeks in her weathered hands, and said, "You're all right. That's all I care about." And then, as if a switch flipped, she muttered, "Now let's eat before this breakfast turns into charcoal." By the time Zeena left for school, hobbling slightly, her backpack light, her hair brushed to within an inch of its life, the whole hilltop felt different. The air smelled sweeter. The sky looked bigger. At school, Ed couldn't sit still. His legs bounced under his desk like they were on springs. He kept checking the door, biting his thumbnail, and whispering apologies to the inside of his pencil case. Barley had tried to reassure him that Zeena was okay, that she probably just went home through another path. But Ed's gut twisted every time he thought about her alone in those woods. He hadn't meant for her to actually go in. He just wanted to scare her. Maybe make her cry a little, like she always made him feel with her big words and brave voice and eyes that saw everything. But this was too far. So when Zeena stepped through the door, bandaged elbow, bandaged ankle, and a slight limp, Ed practically tripped over 3 desks to get to her. "I'm sorry," he blurted. "I'm really, really, really sorry. I didn't think you'd actually go in. I couldn't sleep. I thought maybe the wolves got you, or you fell in a hole, or got eaten by like forest bandits." Zeena blinked, then smiled just a little. "There are no forest bandits," she said. "Oh, well, good." Ed's voice cracked. "I was a jerk, a big one, the biggest. I'd eat a worm if it meant you'd forgive me." Zeena tilted her head. "A live worm?" "If you want." She squinted dramatically. Tempting." "Zeena," Ed groaned. She laughed. "I forgive you, Ed." Just like that, the tension snapped like a dry twig. He deflated with relief. Later, at recess, Zeena sat on the edge of the sandbox. A mini crowd of classmates gathered around her like eager squirrels. "You really went into the woods?" gasped Nia, the second bravest girl in school. "Did you see a ghost?" asked Toby, who was low-key hoping she had. "Were there bears? Did you eat bugs? Did the wolves chase you?" Zeena tucked a stray curl behind her ear, enjoying the hush of the moment. She pulled the tiny pine cone from her pocket and held it up like a sacred treasure. "I saw glowing mushrooms, got caught in a trap, made friends with forest kids named Akila and Moose. Oh, and I slept under a painted ceiling of stars." Barley leaned closer. "And the wolves? Zeena smirked. Let's just say, not everything in the woods is out to scare you. Everyone gasped. Ed looked at her like she was a whole new person. Zeena grinned, because from now on, she was. That evening, Zeena barely tasted her cornbread. Grandma had made a pot of stew so hearty it could bring tears to a cowboy's eyes, but Zeena's spoon just swirled in slow circles. Her thoughts were galloping far beyond the dinner table, back to tree forts and forest laughter, and a girl who danced barefoot in moss. Eat up sugar, Grandma said, eyes twinkling. Your stomach's louder than your horse. Zeena perked up. Marmalade does snore. But even the thought of her old sleepy mare couldn't pull her attention away from the one thing that had her bouncing in her seat like a popcorn kernel. The third flame. She barely waited for Grandma to finish her tea before sprinting upstairs, heart hammering, legs sore but determined. She burst into her little bedroom, climbed onto the old chest under her gable window, and threw it open. Outside, the world was painted gold. The sky was the color of ripe peaches, with clouds smeared like butter. The trees at the bottom of the hill stood dark and tall, their silhouettes brushing the fading sun. And in the very heart of the woods, 2 tiny flames flickered, just as they always had. Zeena's breath caught, her palms pressed to the windowsill. She waited. 1 second, 2, 3, and then, softly, like a secret whispered to the wind, a third flame lit up beside the others. She gasped, not loud, not dramatic, just a soft, reverent little "oh" that caught in her throat and lit a candle in her chest. The third flame danced gently, not quite as steady as the others. It flickered like it was waving, or maybe giggling. Maybe it had trouble holding still, just like Moose. Or maybe it had a song in its flame heart, like Aquila, humming with every gust of forest wind. Zeena leaned out the window, grinning so hard her cheeks ached. She waved with both hands. Big, silly waves. The kind you do when someone drives away and you want to make sure they really know you care. Then she cupped her hands around her mouth and whispered, "Good night. I see you too." The flames didn't answer. They just glowed. But somehow Zeena knew. They saw her. Later, after her candle was snuffed and her socks tucked under the blanket for extra warmth, Zeena lay on her side, the moonlight painting silver stripes on her wall. She whispered a prayer. Please keep Aquila and Moose safe, and Ben and June, and Marmalade too, even though she's not in the forest. And thank you for letting me find them, and for bringing me back. She paused, then added, and thank you for Ed, even if he was the worst sandwich thief in Texas. Outside her window, the third flame glowed steadily. Inside, Zeena smiled into her pillow. Because some days feel like storms, some feel like tests. But once in a while, if you're lucky, a day feels like a beginning, and this one Zeena knew was just the start.